I clutched the freshly stamped divorce papers tightly in my hand. 4 years of marriage, reduced to a few sheets of paper and one signature I still needed from him. I pushed the door open quietly. James Moretti, my husband, was sitting at his desk, relaxed. His tie was loosened, sleeves rolled up, a rare, lazy smile on his face. Beside him stood Vicky Rossi, leaning intimately close, her body almost pressed against his shoulder. "Open up, Jamie. This one's especially for you." James parted his lips, taking the bite while looking up at her with a low, intimate chuckle.
"You always know exactly what I want."
"Of course I do. I've known you longer than anyone." For a few painful seconds, I just stood there. Then James finally saw me. His smile vanished instantly.
"Sophia, I didn't expect you back so soon."
"Oh, Sophia, we were just having a snack. There's only enough for 2. But I'm sure I'm fine." I cut her off, stepping forward. I slid the document across the polished mahogany desk.
"What's this?"
"The university needs a signed safety liability form for my research project." I flipped it open to the signature page. "Since you're my only family now." The truth sat heavy between us. My parents had been gone for years, killed in a suspicious car accident that first pushed me into James's world. He knew better than anyone how alone I was.
"Let me see that."
My nerves suddenly tightened like piano wires. Normally, he'd just sign whatever university paperwork I put in front of him without a second glance. "Oh, James." Vicky laughed, placing a hand on his arm. "You're too serious. It's just a form. You remember how many forms we had to sign for the charity gala last month?" As the heiress to Rossi Enterprises, one of the Moretti family's most important business partners, Vicky had moved effortlessly in James' world since her return. Everywhere James went these days, Vicky seemed to appear at his elbow, her designer dresses complementing his tailored suits like they were a matched set. He hesitated, then grabbed his fountain pen and signed with a quick flusher, the same way he signed death warrants and business deals. I took the papers back before he could see the bold divorce petition header on the first page. "Honestly, James, you treat her more like a kid sister than a wife." James didn't deny it, just took a sip of whiskey. I turned and walked out before they could see my hands shake. The door closed behind me. I was free. I remembered how different James used to be. My parents died when I was 16. Don Moretti, the reigning head of the Moretti Mafia family at the time, took me in as a favor to my father. His former driver, who'd taken a bullet for him. I kept my distance at first, made myself invisible. Until that night 4 years ago, James came home covered in someone else's blood, his white shirt torn and soaked red. "James, you're hurt." I quickly grabbed the first aid kit, my hands shaking slightly as I stood between his legs to get closer. As I cleaned the blood away, my fingers brushed against his firm skin.
"Careful. If you keep touching me like that, I might forget why I'm supposed to stay away from you."
"Then stop staying away."
"You're playing a dangerous game, little girl."
"I'm not a little girl anymore, James. And you know it." We married 3 weeks later. A business arrangement, James called it. Protection for me, legitimately for him. I almost believed him, until Vicky Rossi came back to town. Suddenly, his late meetings doubled. Vicky, the Rossi heiress. Their construction empire worked closely with the Moretti family. Since returning after her divorce, and now that her French husband had filed for divorce, she'd become a constant presence. Slipping into James' meetings, his cars, his life. Last month proved it. I'd waited 6 hours at Dante's, the restaurant James owned through a shell company, for our anniversary dinner. At midnight, his right-hand man Michael finally appeared.
Mrs. Moratti, boss got caught up in urgent business. He asked me to give you this.
Business? On our anniversary?
There were complications tonight. He sends his apologies.
The next morning, I saw the photos in the gossip column, James and Vicky at the opera, the two of them acting imminently. That's when I started planning my exit. In a month, this paper would be my ticket to freedom. Vicky claimed her penthouse needed renovations after her return. That's how she ended up in our guest suite.
James, my penthouse is a complete mess right now. The renovations will take at least a month. Would it be too much trouble if I stayed here? Just for a little while?
You're always welcome here. The Rossos have been business partners for decades,
he said, as if that explained everything. Tonight, I caught them in the study, heads bent over some legal documents. Vicky's long finger traced a line on the paper, lingering too close to James' hand.
Sophia!
She smiled when she noticed me.
We're planning my new home theater. You should join us.
I have lab reports to grade. We're divorced now. Whatever James does, whoever he's with, it's none of my business. Vicky's laugh tinkled like broken glass.
Always buried in your books. James used to do my math homework when we were kids. You tutored me yourself, didn't you, James? My math skills are all thanks to you.
Math was simpler than laundering casino profits.
His eyes flicked briefly to me, a silent check for reaction. I kept my face carefully blank, staring at my feet. How touching, their childhood bond still going strong after all these years. I'd just be here, counting the days until I could escape this charming reunion. By midnight, I was reviewing lab data when James entered our bedroom. The scent of whiskey and Vicky's cloying perfume clung to his shirt as he sat beside me on the bed.
Still working?
His fingers brushed my shoulder. I stiffened instinctively, yet when his hand slid down my spine, I arched into his touch like a starving woman offered crumbs. Pathetic, some rational part of my brain whispered. I closed my eyes and let myself forget until my stomach turned violently.
Sophia? You're not pregnant, are you?
My body stiffened instantly. Without thinking, my hand moved to my stomach, pressing lightly against the flat surface as my heart raced. No, of course not. I answered quickly, my voice unsteady. The queasy feeling faded as fast as it had come, but the suspicion in James's eyes lingered for a second longer. Just then, a loud crash came from downstairs.
James?
Vicky's voice floated up the staircase, trembling.
I heard glass breaking. I think someone's in the house.
I felt James' body tense. Duty called. He was out of bed before I could speak, grabbing the pistol from his nightstand.
Stay here,
he ordered, already halfway to the door. Turned out to be nothing. Just the housekeeper dropping a plate. But when James returned hours later, he went straight to the shower without a word. I pretended to be asleep. The next morning, I saw James sitting at the counter. He was casually flipping through my Research Institute application formus. My stomach tightened.
Biomedical engineering?
He held up the application to the Swiss Institute's application, his brow arched.
When did you arrange this overseas project?
I forced a shrug. My classmate asked me to grab the forms for her. My fingers curled into my palms, out of sight, out of mind, but not before I caught the faint tremor in my pinky finger. Damn it. James turned a page, scanning the details.
Zurich. You'd hate the snow.
Of course he didn't remember. 2 winters ago, I dragged him to a cabin in Vermont just to watch the flakes fall. He'd spent the whole time on the phone with his lawyers. I didn't respond. Just look at him coldly. He set down his coffee, his dark eyes locking onto mine with unsettling intensity.
You don't need another degree. I could appoint you lead researcher at Moretti Medical tomorrow.
That's the problem.
Every achievement I had, every paper, every grant, was shadowed by the Morelli name. I opened my mouth to retort when Vicky's laughter cut through the tension. Morning, darlings! James, the lawyers need us to review the new casino contracts before noon. Her slender fingers brushed against James' shoulder in a familiar gesture. James stood up, without another glance at my applications.
We'll take it in the study.
As they disappeared down the hall, I yanked the forms back, my hand steadied as I reached the marital status. Single. The research fellowship in Switzerland would last for 4 years. The director had emailed twice already, eager for me to start by fall. I sent accept before I could overthink it. The next 2 weeks blurred with thesis revisions and lab work. I barely thought of James, until his call interrupted my Friday research meeting.
I'm outside your lab.
His voice crackled through the phone. Since when does James Morelli play chauffeur? His black sedan idled at the curb. I slipped into the leather seat, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne and gun oil.
You haven't been home.
Lab's busy.
Good. Vicky thought you were avoiding her. She's moving out next month. Says it's inappropriate now.
Tell her not to bother. I don't care. He opened his mouth, probably to praise my maturity, but stopped when he noticed my closed eyes. I feigned sleep to avoid conversation, but the exhaustion was real. 10 days until Switzerland. I stood in the supermarket aisle, staring at the dried hawthorn slices in my hand. I hadn't eaten these since childhood, but lately my stomach churmed at everything. The pregnancy test confirmed my fears.
12 weeks along. Congratulations.
12 weeks. That meant it happened during James and my last time together, right before Vicky returned. My hands shook as I dialed James's number. A familiar ringtone echoed down the hallway. James stood 20 feet away, his black coat draped over Vicky's shoulders as she whispered something that made him smile. The doctor's voice carried through the cracked door.
Avoid strenuous activity, and no intercourse for 2 months.
Vicky was pregnant too,
I'll make sure she rests.
James said, that tender tone I rarely heard. I shot out of the stairwell like a bullet, desperate to escape, only to crash straight into a nurse carrying medical charts. The papers went flying as we collided, creating just enough noise to draw attention from down the hall. James emerged from the examination room just in time to see me scrambling to help pick up the scattered document, my face burning with the effort to appear composed.
Sophia? Why are you here?
Stomach ache. I crumpled the ultrasound slip in my pocket. Vicky materialized beside him, clutching her own scan. James told me you skip meals. We should get her some ginger tea. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the ultrasound photo in Vicky's hand. The grainy black and white image seemed to pulse under the harsh hospital lights.
Sophia, let me explain.
James. We talked about this. I saw the conflict play out across his face, the way his muscles tensed, how his hand twitched before curling into a fist. Then Vicky pressed her cheek against his shoulder, whispering something that made him freeze. His arm dropped to his side like a dead weight. I turned away before they could see my face crumple. Behind me, I heard James take a half step forward. James! You promised! Outside, winter air slapped my face. My hand rested on my stomach.
Still flat, but everything had changed.
Sophia, boss wants to see you at the gates.
I spotted James leaning casually against his Mercedes, the morning sunlight softening his sharp features in a way that made my breath catch for a moment. I immediately averted my gaze and nervously grabbed my clothes with my fingers as if it were something extremely important. 4 years of marriage and my traitorish body still reacted to him like we were newlyweds. Old habits, I told myself firmly. Just muscle memory, nothing more.
Sophia, dinner tomorrow? Dante's, 8 o'clock.
Dante's. The name alone sent acid creeping up my throat. That was where I'd sat for 6 hours on our anniversary, staring at cold Oslo buoy while James handled business with Vicky. I'll be there. This dinner would serve a single purpose: finalize the divorce.
There's something I need to explain about what happened.
Boss, it's Vicky. She cut her wrist. It's an emergency.
Of course. Even our last dinner couldn't be just ours.
What?
My vision tunneled until all I could see was James's retreating back, his coat flaring like a cape.
Take her to the hospital.
Just low blood sugar. Get her some orange juice.
A jolt of panic shot through me as consciousness returned. If they discover the pregnancy...
And considering the patient's condition...
Yes, boss? Understood. On my way now, sir.
Keep her here till New Year's if you want.
Ah, you're awake. You're approximately 13 weeks along. Baby's healthy, but given your collapse, we'll keep you 48 hours for monitoring. I didn't mention this to your companion earlier.
I exhaled in quiet relief. No, and please keep it that way.
Mr. and Mrs. Morelli are like royalty. They've turned Suite 801 into a penthouse, rose petals, champagne, the works. Mr. Morelli hasn't left her side since admission. Would you expect less? Did you see how he carried her through the lobby, like some romantic film? 10 years together, and he still treats her like a bride. Meanwhile, my husband forgets our anniversary.
Their words cut deeper than any knife. There was no question. They could only be talking about James and Vika.
Of course he's devoted. Mrs. Morelli's finally giving him an heir. Mr. Morelli commanded an army of specialists at her slightest sigh.
James treated Vicky like a queen. After 2 nights of observation with no complications, I was discharged. Stepping out of the hospital's automatic doors, I spotted Emma waiting by the curb, the Manali envelope clutched in her hands. Stepping through the hospital's sliding doors, my first stop was the courthouse to collect the divorce decree. By the time this reaches his desk, I thought, watching the clerk stamp the postmark, I'll be in Zurich. On the day of my departure, I stood nervously at the arrival's gate, scanning the crowd for my institute contact.
Sophia?
I turned to see a lanky man with gentle eyes pushing through the crowd. Eric, according to his badge, greeted me with a warmth that immediately put me at ease.
Priority boarding is ready. The director insisted on VIP treatment for our star researcher.
As Eric maneuvered toward me, his shoulder briefly blocked my view of a commotion near the VIP lounge, where James stood with Vicky clinging to his arm, their backs turned as they greeted a group of Middle Eastern businessmen. At that precise moment, James stiffened.
Did someone just call Sophia?
Don't be ridiculous, James. Sophia is probably buried in lab right now, Vicky said as she pulled James toward a champagne reception. We disappeared into the shuffling queue before his gaze could sweep our direction. As we walked toward the gate, Eric animatedly described the lab's new 2-fold-on microscope.
Dr. Laurent had it installed specifically for your protein research.
He said, eyes bright with the kind of academic passion I'd nearly forgotten existed.
Oh, and the team unanimously voted to adopt your preferred schedule. No morning meetings before 9, and absolutely no evening work.
I pressed a hand to my sternum. These people, who'd never met me, had tried hard to anticipate my needs better than James ever hid in 4 years of marriage.
For writing home.
Eric and me a stack of postcards. The Alps glattering under cheap gloss. He he said with an encouraging nod. The trash bin swallowed them whole. Eric blinked.
No one to write to?
I glanced back at the terminal windows, where the city skyline stood sharp against the dawn. Somewhere out there, James was probably reviewing Vicky's latest ultrasound photos over breakfast, her diamond-crusted hand resting on his arm. Not anymore, I said, turning towards the gate.
Fuck! Are you trying to get killed? Watch the damn car!
His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, the leather creaking under his grip.
James, what's wrong with you these days? You forgot about our movie plans and now you're trying to kill us both?
I'm tired. Ask your girlfriends to go with you.
Lab running late, don't wait up.
Nothing since.
You've been like this since Sophia left for her precious lab. Honestly, she's probably just stalling because you've been spending time with me.
That didn't make sense. Sophia had seemed fine, better than fine even when she'd left.
The Moretti mansion loomed before them, its gated entrance as imposing as ever. But when James stepped inside, something felt off. The air was too still, the silence too complete. Then he saw it.
I found this in the trash, sir. I thought, given the contents, you might want it.
James reached for it slowly. The cover was cold beneath his fingers. He flipped it open to the first page, their wedding photo. Sophia had been radiant that day, her smile so bright it nearly outshone the diamonds at her throat. The master bedroom door swung open with too much force, cracking against the wall. Empty. The walk-in closet like a wound, bare hangers dangling, where Sophia's dresses used to sway. All traces of her had been erased, not so much as a bobby pin left behind. James' breath came too fast. His phone was in his hand before he realized it. Sophia's number rang once, twice, then clicked to voicemail.
You've reached.
He redialed. Same result.
Let me explain everything. Vicky's baby isn't mine. It was the result of her disastrous Parisian fling. I had nothing to do with it. I swear I'll keep my distance from her from now on. No more meetings alone, no more late nights. It's over. You're the only one I want. Sophia would understand. She had to. 4 years together. She wouldn't just—
James? Courier dropped this off earlier.
He nearly dismissed it, then froze. The return address was from the courthouse. A single sheet fluttered to the ground, landing face up on the polished hardwood. Divorce decreed. James Morelli versus Sophia Morelli. Finalized. James' heart contracted suddenly. The world tilted on its axis. The ink looked freshly dried. But the memory hit him like a bullet. That afternoon in his study. Sophia's trembling hands as she slid the university form across his desk. Vicky's laughter distracting him. The fountain pen scratching across paper without a second glance. The realization detonated in his chest. He'd signed his own divorce.
James, it's just some college girl's tantrum. She'll come crawling your—
I have a wife.
Vicky's hand landed on his shoulder. The words tore from his throat like gunfire. He shoved her away, the movement sending a crystal vase shattering to the floor. Glass shards skittered across the ground like the broken pieces of his marriage. The air slapped his face as he burst outside. James stalked past clusters of laughing students, their backpacks heavy with textbooks and futures. He realized with a sickening lurch that he didn't know which room was Sophia's lab, didn't know her advisor's name, had never once asked about her research.
Biology lab?
The security guard eyed his rumpled suit with disdain.
All grad students cleared out last week.
Family would have known that?
The words landed like a knife between his ribs. Twilight painted the quad in bluesed views when a petite girl with blue-streaked hair paused at his desperate questioning.
You're Sophia's brother? Then why didn't you come when she collapsed 2 weeks ago?
James' world tilted. The pieces clicked together with brutal clarity. The hospital encounter, Sophia's nausea, the way she'd cradled her stomach. The girl's next words detonated in his chest.
Your sister nearly lost the baby last week. Where the hell were you when she was in hospital?
Lost the baby?
James Moretti's entire body locked up at the student's words.
Some bastard got her pregnant and vanished. Didn't even show up when she collapsed.
Each syllable landed like a gunshot in the quiet quad. His mind flashed to the hospital, Sophia's pale face in the elevator, the crumpled paper in her fist. And him? Escorting Vicky to her prenatal appointment like a fucking gentleman.
Where is she now?
The words scraped his throat raw.
Gone. Left for Switzerland last week.
Midnight found James in his penthouse office, shredding through red tape with a series of violent phone calls. By 3 a.m., he had the institute director on a private jet headed to his headquarters.
1 million euros for your research program. Tell me where she is.
Ms. Moretti is in Vallis province, but Mr. Moretti...
2 million. And you personally take me there.
The mountain roads are treacherous this season.
3 million, and I'll have a helicopter waiting in Geneva.
The Swiss Alps loomed outside the helicopter windows, their peaks like jagged teeth against the dawn sky. James hadn't slept in 36 hours, his body running on rage and regret.
She never mentioned you were her husband. We kept it quiet.
The helicopter lurched in a sudden gust. The research center was a sleek glass structure clinging to the mountainside when they arrived at dawn. James immediately asked the researcher at the door.
Sophia Morelli, where is she?
A calm voice cut through the tension.
Mrs. Moretti departed at 0500 for field research.
Eric stood framed in the chally doorway, his wire-framed glasses glinting in the rising sun. James demanded through gritted teeth.
Where exactly? Col du Sonnets, a routine sediment collection. Though I can't imagine why our research itinerary concerns.
James shoved past him toward the equipment shed.
Helmet! Crampons! Now!
Eric's hand closed around his bicep with surprising strength.
The glacier is unstable this season. Even with your generous donation, I can't allow.
James whirled, knocking Eric's hand away.
That woman is my wife!
A beat. The researchers exchanged glances. Eric's smile never wavered as he straightened his sleeves.
How curious. She's been signing her forms as Miss Moretti single.
The words landed like a sucker punch. Before James could retaliate, a grad student came sprinting from the comms hut, radio crackling.
Avalanche alert! Sonnet's Pass just collapsed!
Eric's composure shattered. He grabbed the radio.
Sophia's team? All 3 vans were on that road.
James was already in motion, snatching keys from a snow machine. Eric lunged after him.
You'll kill yourself in this weather!
James gunned the engine.
Then at least I'll die knowing I fought for her.
The snowmobile roared to life, leaving Eric standing in the spray of ice crystals. The meticulous researcher, suddenly, violently outmaneuvered. The avalanche had turned the pass into a graveyard of snow and twisted metal. James worked alongside the professionals, his hands blistering inside his gloves as he hacked at the ice. His world narrowed to the rhythm of the axe. Lift, strike, dig. Each motion a penance. Memories ambushed him between swings. Sophia's laughter muffled by snowfall during their Vermont trip. The way she'd once traced equations onto his palm to explain her research. Her silent tears in the hospital when he'd been with Vicky. A rescuer shouted at him in German, pointing to his bloodied gloves. James ignored him. The pain was nothing compared to the vice around his lungs, the terror that he'd buried her long before this mountain did. Dusk bled into night. I saw James's vision swimming with exhaustion. His fingers have lost sensation.
Sort casualties by severity. Redirect stage 3 hyperthermia to zone B.
I stood 20 feet away, directing triage in fluent German, my parka hood dusted with snow. He saw me. James staggered toward me, his pulse roaring in his ears. A figure stepped into his path, a tall researcher with a Scandinavian accent.
Mrs. Moretti is occupied. Identify yourself.
James yelled free, but the movement sent him crashing to his knees.
Sophia!
My head snapped up. For a heartbeat, our eyes locked across the chaos, my gaze widening in recognition, then hardening like glacial ice. I turned back to my team.
Carry on.
Dr. Lund blocked James again.
You're disrupting operations. Leave, or I'll call security.
James barely heard the threat. I was right there, close enough to touch, yet I'd looked through him like he was a ghost.
Tell her it's James.
Lund's grip tightened.
She knows.
By dawn, the rescue efforts had shifted to recovery. I emerged from a medical tent, my hands streaked with antiseptic. James intercepted me at the supply crates, his voice raw.
You're pregnant.
I didn't flinch. And you're trespassing on federal research grounds. Leave before I report you.
I thought you were dead.
Funny. I felt that way for years. A radio squawked.
Think, Sophia?
I turned to answer it, but James caught my sleeve.
Please, just look at me.
When I finally did, my eyes were a void.
Why? You never did.
The words landed like a bullet. James recoiled, and in that split second, Dr. Lund reappeared with 2 armed guards. I vanished into the tent without a backward glance. The makeshift infirmary reeked of irony and melted snow. James waited outside for hours, his breath fogging in the cold, until Lund finally exited.
Ms. Moretti is resting. She's 3 months pregnant, in case you missed that detail, too.
I heard James' knees buckle just outside the tent. 3 months. The timeline matched our last night together, the one before Vicky's return, before everything unraveled. Lund tossed him a satellite phone.
Call your pilot. The storm's worsening.
James stared at the device, the weight of his failures crushing him. He could summon a private army, bribe every official in Switzerland, torch the world to find me again, but none of it would undo the truth. I had rebuilt myself beyond his reach. And this time, I wouldn't be begging for his love. He'd be begging for mine. The words James Moretti had rehearsed during the frantic helicopter ride, the desperate digging, the agonizing wait, dissolved like snowflakes on hot skin. Standing before me in the chaotic aftermath of the avalanche, the only thing that emerged was a raw, ragged apology. The next day, James came to the entrance of the tent again.
Sophia.
He began, his voice scraped thin by cold and exhaustion.
What you went through. I know. The pregnancy. I know.
Enough!
I cut him off, my voice sharp as glacial ice. A brittle, mocking smile touched my lips.
Did you fly halfway across the world, Mr. Morelli, just to mock how stupid I used to be?
My words, honed by months of solitary resolve and pain, sliced into him with surgical precision. He flinched, the accusation striking bone.
No. God, no. I know how much I hurt you. I was wrong. So wrong.
His gaze, bloodshot from 30 hours without sleep, pleaded with me.
Sophia, please. Don't let this divorce be final. Come back.
A heavy silence descended, broken only by the distant whine of a snowmobile. Then a faint, dinuvial sound escaped me, a shard of laughter devoid of humor. How remarkably arrogant.
You think tossing out a cheap sorry means I should wag my tail like some grateful puppy? That the years of neglect, the humiliation with Vicky just vanish?
I shook my head, the movement weary yet resolute.
I was invisible to you until I chose not to be.
You discarded me long before you signed those papers.
Sophia, listen.
Listen to what, James? My eyes, dark pools of accumulated hurt, locked onto his.
More empty promises? Please, based on the child you only just remembered exists? You say you were worried last night? Where was that worry when I sat alone at Dante's? When I needed you and you were draped over Vicky? Your sudden concern is convenient, James. Pathetic.
My voice dropped, each word a hammer blow. Come back for the child's sake, you say. I'll support your career.
As if that fixes anything. As if that's what I'd from you.
I drew myself up, the borrowed parkage seeming too large, yet failing to diminish my presence. You haven't changed, James. Not really. You still don't see me.
You never did.
You only see what you want, what you've lost control of.
You never loved anyone, James Morelli. You only ever loved the idea of possession, of dominance. I left, and your world felt unbalanced. That's not love. That's your colossal ego throwing a tantrum. I gestured vaguely at the devastation around us, at his mud-cacked, bleeding hands. This frantic search? This dramatic mountain rescue?
It's not love. It's just another form of your profound, consuming selfishness. It's self-gratification. Don't confuse your guilt and your bruised pride for anything noble. The truth of my words, the stark, unvarnished indictment of his entire being, hit James like a physical blow. He swayed slightly, the world tilting. Delayed affection is worthless. The thought echoed in my hardened eyes, cheaper than weeds. I wanted only to sever the final ties.
Sophia! Mrs. Moretti!
He gathered my slight weight against him, the feel of me, unconscious and bundled in layers, sending a jolt through his system. Fear, possessiveness, a desperate aching tenderness.
I've got her.
His voice leaving no room for argument.
I'm her husband.
He cradled me carefully, ignoring the protest straining on Eric's face. Inside the relative warmth, James laid me gently on a cot. Eric fetched blankets and a medical kit, his expression guarded but professionally cooperative. James ignored him, his focus solely on my pale face. He spotted a small camp stove and a ration pack containing powdered milk. Moving with a concentration he usually reserved for high-stakes negotiations, he meticulously heated water, mixed the milk, and poured it into a clean metal cup. Kneeling beside the couch as my eyelids fluttered open, he held the cup steady. His voice, when he spoke, was softer than I'd ever heard it.
Drink this. It'll help restore my energy, warm you up.
He saw the immediate resistance in my eyes, the instinct to push him away.
Please, Sophia. For the baby.
My gaze flickered to the cup, then back to his face, weary but defiant. I can hold it myself.
Let me.
He produced a small, flexible straw from a nearby kit.
Just use the straw. I'll hold the cup. Easier this way.
Once I had drained the cup and some color returned to my cheeks, I looked at James. I need to rest alone.
Then rest well. I'll be right outside.
James reluctantly retreated outside the tent, leaning against the canvas, his own exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. He hadn't eaten in over a day. Later that day, deemed recovered enough, I was back among my team. James pulled a satellite phone from his pocket, the signal weak but functional. He dialed Michael.
Michael, it's James.
His voice was harky but decisive.
I'm staying in Switzerland, indefinitely. Handle everything back home. Only contact me for absolute emergencies. Report daily, but don't expect immediate responses. I'm not coming back without her.
The next morning, I stepped out of the medical tent and found James waiting, holding 2 cups of hot coffee.
You should eat something.
I don't need your help, James.
Sophia.
For the first week, he was like a shadow. Always nearby, but never forcing on sation.
He cleared snow from the path to the lab every morning. He brought meals, but never stayed long. One evening, after a long day in the field, I returned exhausted and freezing. A hot meal was waiting on my table, along with a note. 2 days later, during a heavy snowstorm, the power in my quarters went out. I was struggling to keep warm when there was a knock. James stood there with a portable generator and extra blankets. "I told you to leave me alone."
I'm not here to talk. Just let me set this up so you don't freeze.
The next morning, I found a thermos outside my door. When I opened it, the smell of ginger tea hit me, the exact one that helped with my nausea. "Why are you still here, James? Don't you have an empire to run?"
You and the baby are more important than any empire. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I'm going to stay until you tell me to leave for good.
I didn't answer. I simply turned and walked back inside. Matteo was born on a freezing December night. I was in labor for 14 hours. When they finally let James in after the birth, he stood at the door, looking completely shaken.
Sophia.
His voice broke. He took slow steps toward the bed, eyes fixed on the tiny bundle in my arms.
Can I see him?
I hesitated for a long moment, then nodded slightly. He reached out with trembling hands and gently took Matteo. Tears fell from his eyes as he looked at our son.
He's perfect. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for giving him life.
In the months that followed, he proved himself through actions and quiet words. One afternoon in spring, while I was feeding Matteo, James knocked softly.
I brought the new spectrometer you mentioned last week. The lab said it just arrived.
You didn't have to do that.
I know, but I wanted to. I also booked a translator for your upcoming paper presentation. I know German still tires you out when you're tired.
I looked at him, surprised. He remembered. By the time Matteo was 8 months old, James had rented a small apartment nearby. One quiet evening, as I rocked Matteo to sleep, James sat across from me.
I was wrong for so many years, Sophia. I treated you like you were just there, like you would always wait for me.
I didn't reply that night, but the ice around my heart had already started to melt. 1 year later, in my arms, nestled against a soft cashmere sweater, slept a baby boy with a shock of blonde hair, his tiny fist curled trustingly against my chest. Matteo Morecci. My year in Switzerland had been transformative. The research project had been completed successfully, my work published in a prestigious journal. James stepped in, shedding a light spring coat. He crossed the room silently, careful not to wake Matteo. He placed a gentle kiss on my temple, then bent to brush his lips against his son's downy head. "It's time?"
The jet's ready whenever you are.
He didn't say home. That word held too many complicated layers. He simply held out his hand, palm up, an invitation, not a demand.
Michael has everything prepared. The penthouse, it's different now. Yours.
As for Vicky Rossi? Facing social ruin and realizing James Morelli was utterly lost to her, she had quietly reconciled with her French ex-husband. By the time Matteo was born, she had already returned to Paris, a closed chapter fading into the distant past. James picked up my meticulously packed research notes and the carry cod containing a still sleeping Matteo. I shouldered my laptop bag. Together, we walked out of the Zurich apartment,